Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you to Shanar and the other organizers for inviting me as well. As you know, I'm the project director of the Freedom House Press Freedom Index. And as many of the other speakers here have already, commented, press freedom and freedom of expression is really a crucial element to ensuring transparency and accountability, which is the focus of this conference. Freedom House really believes that press freedom, freedom of expression is one of the fundamental freedoms that really ensures the ability of other rights and the ability to practice and try to strive for other rights. And for that reason, Freedom House for the last 34 years has produced a specific report trying to measure media freedom around the world. In our recent report, which we released just a few weeks ago, we found worryingly that the level of global press freedom is at a decade low. And this, I think, has important implications for our ongoing struggle to ensure other human rights and to improve the levels of transparency around the world. I'll focus tomorrow in another session on our findings for Turkey, which I know have received a lot of attention here over the last few weeks. But I wanted to talk just very quickly now about some of the global trends that we've seen in terms of transparency issues in our Media Freedom Index. What we've seen is that on a global level, there have been several positive trends over the last 5 years, particularly in the passing of access to information laws around the world. We now have over 100 countries that do have such laws on the books, which is a very important step in at least having a legal framework which helps people fight for access to information and gain freedom of information. What we've also seen in the last few years, on paper at least, is a number of governments committing to what's called the Open Government Partnership, where governments will commit to, at least in theory, having a more openness in the government and more access to information. And this movement has also, I think, spurred efforts, particularly with countries in Africa, but also elsewhere, with governments trying to reform some of their laws on these issues. Also, many speakers have alluded to the role of the social media, new media, but that's also a very important factor in improving access to information, transparency, and the ability to spread information, especially in countries where the traditional media remain much more under state control. So those are some of the positives we've seen on a global level over the last 5 years. However, on the negative side, what we've seen, as other speakers have already alluded to as well, governments continue to try and restrict coverage of key issues such as national security issues. We've seen this in the U.S. in recent years with record prosecutions of whistleblowers, and in some cases journalists are also being caught up in these prosecutions. Governments are also very determined to try and sort of control the message and to restrict news and information coming out about corruption, particularly high-level government corruption. And in a number of countries, and not only the most restrictive authoritarian regimes in the world, but even much more open democratic countries such as Turkey, such as Thailand, we do see attempts to restrict the internet, to restrict social media, and restrict other forms of spreading news and information that have become much more prominent. So I would say there's been both positives and negatives in this field over the last few years. And there's obviously a deep need for civil society, for human rights groups, and for groups that work on freedom of expression issues to keep fighting to ensure, greater freedom of expression, greater transparency, and people's ability to keep trying to access information. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much, and I look forward to engaging with you during the conference.